Hello, just jumping on for half an hour, something like that. Get some more hobby done. And chatting about my first game of 3rd edition, which was actually pretty good, considering all the drama and doom and gloom about the game. Yeah, the other day we went to our local store and set up some terrain that wasn't actually L-shaped ruins from 40k, which was really nice. And I took my knights, 2,000 points, and Chris took his ultramarines, which are kind of firstborn from 40k but fit in well to Heresy. And I enjoyed the game. Very, very complicated, even by 40k standards. But I'm pretty sure we managed to get most of it right. Lots of rule checking. And I think that's something else as well. The books are still not laid out amazingly well. I think they're an improvement on the last edition, but you're still flicking backwards between several different books, different pages, whatever. So that trait has not left the game. And knights wise, I lost, but kind of similar to 40k, I suppose. They didn't struggle with killing things, and the bit that kind of let them down was probably my sort of generalship, and also the kind of lack of scoring. But I think I've already got the answer to that. And moving forward, I'll be getting the solar auxiliary out and running. There's a detachment in there that you can include them in, and you can bring a couple of units of troops, some scouting type units, infiltrating units, and a couple of transports, and a unit of elites as well. So yeah, I'll be going for that, I think, and that should improve the scoring, and then it'll let the knights go off and do whatever they've got to do, killing things, hopefully. But yeah, I mean, I think I could have done a few things better, but Chris still won four times the amount of scoring that I did. But it was good. It was enjoyable. I had somewhere a set of clippers, and I don't know what I've done with them now. There they are. I still haven't sorted out my desk. I'll add it to next week's jobs list. So yeah, if I can get this built tonight and done, then tomorrow I can get it base coated and sprayed, and then hopefully on with some painting. I don't think it's going to take too much to kind of get it to a reasonable standard, and then I can revisit it when I need to. Looks like a little tab there. Do I need that little tab, or is that part of the moulding process? I don't think I need it. So yeah, I felt like the Knights struggled with scoring. They haven't got access to lining quite the same. Well, not the list that I took. I took 2 Questoris and about 8 Armigers, and they just didn't have the scoring there. And one thing I'll take away from it is that Vindicators are very, very good. There's a couple of times where, even though Chris hadn't managed to do damage, but he managed to sort of inflict statuses and things on the big Questoris Knight. I took kind of a gallant loadout for 40k people, and I think that was a mistake because Chris managed to shut it down for a turn with the Vindicator, even though it hadn't done any damage. He kind of took it out of the game for at least a turn, and Heresy 3rd edition, you've only got 4 turns, so he's taking a big chunk of my army out for at least a quarter of the game. So that was a good move. So I'll be looking for a Vindicator or some kind of equivalent to that for the Imperial Fist. In my head, I thought that the Imperial Fist would maybe have the bigger tanks. So, I don't know, maybe a Typhon. That's quite a chunk of money. But I'll have a dig through the rules and see whether they're going to do a similar thing. Armigers as well, they feel quite a lot different than 40k. I'm sorry I keep comparing it to it, but I've come over from that game system, and it's interesting how the weapons profiles fit a different role. I felt like the Warglaives were a lot better than the Helverins. That was definitely a takeaway for me. And I think that's been the case for most of 9th and 10th as well, in 40k, that the Warglaives just had that flexibility because they've got the close combat punch. They've got a decent gun on them that can do damage to armor and things. And the autocannons, I tried a few different targets with them. I don't feel that they did that great against troops. In fact, there was one turn where I shot at some of Chris's heavy weapons teams, and basically the return fire that they got was worse than what I'd done to his units. So yeah, Helverin's autocannons, they had more luck against kind of Rhino chassis vehicles, if we were playing it right, which I'm pretty sure we were. So it was kind of interesting seeing the different the different strengths that they had. So I had an equal mix of Warglaives and Helverins, 4 and 4. I think in my next game, if I take the Knights again, I'll try and include some Solar Auxilia, and I'll probably drop a couple of Helverins and try out taking some of the Moirax, because that's good. In the 2nd edition, I believe that Moirax had to be taken in a Mechanicum detachment or a Mechanicum army, but in this edition they are included in the Knight Codex. So I'll take those out. I've got one armed with a Siege Claw and a Volkite, and I've got another one with Lightning Lock. So I'll give those a run next time. But yeah, so 2,000 points. I had 10 knights on the board. I think I was ever so slightly over 2,000 points, but it was a tryout game. It wasn't a major issue, and Crystal did a good job of taking the win. And flipping back onto the Marines, the Terminators did a lot of work. They actually feel like those elite sort of mini dreadnoughts that they should be. Chris had a couple of units of those Cataphracti, or some models standing in for some Cataphracti. And they did a lot of work. They were good. I definitely respect them a bit. There's a couple of Predators on the board as well, with las cannons, which, you know, they did some work. And I was watching a video the other day. I think it was 2+ Tough, and he was saying about a loadout on the Predators of giving it basically flamers, and for not a lot of points, this thing could go and push troops and that off of objectives and cause a load of status checks and all that kind of thing, and really do a number. So I think that was an interesting loadout. I'll be giving something like that a go, I think. But the main takeaway is I enjoyed it. Very, very complicated. Definitely something that I think I'm going to have to get a few games in before I'm confident in it. And probably a few more than that. But it's a good game. And I've been printing off loads of terrain and stuff, trying to get that all together so that I can have a nice themed battle. I've got a load of trenches and Aegis defence line type things from Sacramundus. The printer's going at the minute. I don't know if you can pick it up in the background. So I need to get those all outside and get them sprayed. I think I've got enough for a 6x4 board now. And I dug out my kind of Gothic city type terrain. And I've had a lot of problems with it. We did a big Apocalypse game for 40k a few months back, and it was that kind of spring sunshine in the UK, and the car had obviously got hot, and I've got what do you call it? I've got a filament printer, and the terrain that I printed off with it got hot in the car, and it all warped basically, or most of it warped. So at the weekend I sorted through that finally, and a lot of it's going to have to go in the bin. So that was not something that I'd come across before, had any issues with. But no big deals. Most of it can be replaced and sorted out. So I kind of got away with that one lightly. I've just dropped a bit on the floor, which is always the way. No, I haven't. It's on the buttons. So it'd be nice in the next few weeks or whatever, maybe in the next month, if I get out the Imperial Castle type bastion thing and had a load of trenches in front of that, it could be quite a nice board to play on. A few people have commented about the terrain rules in 3rd edition. I think, yeah, they're not great. You can house rule a few things. It's not a major issue. So this kit, there's no numbers on it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I've got to make up 5 of those. Just looking at a few of these bits, and I think there's sections that you're meant to leave some of it on. It's not clear where the sprue starts and finishes, really. Where does that go? Yeah, I reckon that's meant to stay on. Just going to try and take that to there. No, it's not. Cut it off. There's a lot of clean up in these pieces. I'm going to leave that on there, actually. Yeah, I reckon there's parts on there you could snip off and they might make your life easier at the next stage. I can't wait for the Mark II Assault Marines to come out. I know they've been announced, but I'm not sure when the pre-order's going up. I'll definitely be picking up some of those. The backpacks are miles too big, but it's still cool. Let's have a go with this one. I went into that first game sort of thinking that Knights might be a bit oppressive. I did give Chris a heads up that I'd be bringing them just so he could adapt his list a little bit. And he brought plenty of las cannons and all that kind of stuff. But I don't think they were silly. The movement is interesting because it's almost reversed from 40k. So in 30k, the big Questoris Knights actually move quicker than the little ones. Which makes sense, really. I went for just a standard loadout across the board. Armature or Helverins, I just put a heavy stubber on the carapace. So I might try out some melter for the next ones. Kind of make some warglaives or something that are almost like dedicated elites and armor hunters. See how they get on. And definitely some troops running around on the floor in between the big guys. I think that's really cinematic, and that's what 40k needs. People have been asking for kind of men at arms and that for the knight households for quite a while, and 30k have just gone in there and said, yeah, take some solar auxilia and happy days. Such a simple fix. And just my initial impressions as well is that the codex, the Knight Codex, is almost written like that you need to take those little guys to kind of get them objectives and hold the ground that the big knights have cleared. And with that new box coming out, the combat forces, which is such a great idea. I hope that they're priced decently. It probably won't be. It'll probably be a little bit too much, but if we could get the Solar Auxilia box from Games Workshop at sort of like £80, £90, that'd be amazing. I've got a feeling that it'll be a flat £100, but there doesn't seem to be as much in that one. But we can hope. I quickly totted up the prices across the boxes, and the Space Marines were coming out at £170 if you bought it all individually from G-Dubs. And the Mechanicum were around about 157, I think. And then the Solar Auxilia were pretty much 150 quid. So it's still not bad, is it? Well, subjective, isn't it? This is not a cheap hobby. But if we could get that for even if Games Workshop put it out at £100, you might be able to get that for £80 off of a discount retailer. And that would be a bit of a result. In fact, I think I'm going to go and at some point have a flick through the Solar Auxilia book and try and work out how the Light Sentinels will fit into a Knights list, because there's a slot for them. It's a recon slot or something. Be interesting to see how much they kind of bring to the table. Is anybody else going to do Imperial Knights for Heresy, or are they just going to be a detachment that you add on? This is a fiddly little kit. It's these bits where you're going to make 5 of the same thing, but yeah, I sort of switch off a bit, I think. Just want to get it done, sprayed. Quite a lot of flash and mould lines on these bits, which I'm not grumbling too much because I much prefer the idea of these to the new kits, but it's quite fiddly. I should probably use a file, shouldn't I? This glue is running out. Either that or the snozzle thing has got blocked. Seems to be working now. I didn't think you'd need too much glue in this. I reckon this would just fit in the hole itself. In about 3 weeks' time, 4 weeks' time, there's a small Heresy game going on, so I could try out friendly type thing. 1500 points, and I'd like to go to it. And I could take the Imperial Fist because I think I could get them all kind of painted to an acceptable standard and done, but I am tempted to take the Knights because I could have that as an excuse to get some of the Solar Auxilia painted up. But at 1500 points, I mean, taking nearly a third of that out just in one big model is quite a bit. Take a couple of Dracosans, .40 Lance rifles, some Velataris with Volkites on them. I think that'd be a fair chunk of points. That'd be about 700 points at a rough guess. Could be quite fun, I suppose. I doubt it'll be very competitive, but that is not the purpose. I haven't got any of the light sentinels at the minute, so could be quite funny, I guess, if somebody sees that there's a knight player there and they think, right, great, let's take a huge anti-tank gun, and then they see somebody put out on the table kind of a Questoris, a couple of armigers, and a boatload of squishy little humans. I guess they'll have a good time killing them. One of the funnest games I've seen put out on YouTube was when Winters went up against that militia list, and there was squads of like 50 militia guys, and it was almost like you needed a dustpan and brush to get the units off the board quick enough. It was certainly a killy game. I definitely don't have the patience to paint, I don't know how many hundreds of militia, all for them to be kind of swept off the board. I don't think I could do that. It's very slow progress here, so yeah, I don't think that would be a good use of my time. God, nearly there on that. give the file a go, see how I get on with it. I think that's too coarse, to be honest. That's way too rough. I think that's doing more harm than good. Oh, slow progress, but it is progress. That is a horrible sound. It's just not sitting quite flush in places. And I think that's because there's a little mould line on the bottom of these nubby bits. There we go, that's better. Right, I'm going to get that glued in, call it for tonight, and I'll get the rest of this just built up. I think there's a few more bits to go on. And then in the next one we do, I think we'll be painting. Happy days. Happy wargaming.